Welcome to our training webinar today on selling more to your customers. Just before we get started, I just wanted to touch on a few housekeeping rules. So as I mentioned, upon entry, everyone is going to be muted. We please ask that you stay muted for the webinar. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to pop them in our chat and we will address them at the end as well as a Q&A. So we'll be able to answer any questions you may have. So no worries there. Also, we are going to be recording the entire webinar. So if you have to pop out early or want to review it back, you'll be getting an email this afternoon with the recording as well. All right, so with that, we will dive in to today's webinar. So first off, I just wanted to introduce everyone to today's host for the webinar. So first off is myself. I'm Amanda. I'm our Director of Customer Success. I'll be working closely with a lot of you in the near future, so I want to make sure to get in front of you guys and get to introduce myself. We also have Dimitri, more known as Dee for all of you. Most of you know her. She'll be running a large portion of today's webinar. And lastly, we have Chris. He is our Director of Product and is here to handle and field any product questions you may have. So we just want to touch on what are you going to be learning in today's webinar? So one of the first things you're going to learn is how can you sell a product that's actually going to let you go back to existing customers and sell it again and again? Another one is how can you create value for customers when there's such a hard time right now with delivering on hardware? And lastly, we want to talk about how can you add to some of your existing deployments without being able to add more radios, and what ways can we creatively do that? So to start off, we're going to just talk about a couple trends that we're seeing in the radio market, but also throughout the global economy as well. The first one for that is the obvious supply chain interruptions. So this is stuff from Motorola's hardware delays, which right now are sitting between 9 to 12 months, depending. Also, there's just been a huge disruption globally to supply chains from lockdowns, labor shortages, and logistics networks that have all taken a hit from COVID. And unfortunately, most of these things will not be resolved until at least next year and maybe even longer. Another thing that we're seeing is obviously there's been a ton of changes all over the world, but especially in the workplace from COVID. This is now the time of the Great Resignation. Almost 48 million people in the US alone quit their jobs in 2021. And a lot of employees want to change in working conditions. So this can definitely pose a difficulty within the workplace. So it's something that needs to be addressed as well. And lastly, and most sad, is the disruptions of war. Right now with Russia's invasion on the Ukraine, there has been a lot of uncertainty, risk, and inflation created across the globe. So this is also something that has put a bit of a bump in the road. Now I'm going to hand it over to Dee, and she's going to talk to you guys about how to continue to sell with us and quite a few of our Teldio products.
All right, thank you, Amanda. So now for the main reason you are here. So the main reason for our presentation is for us to tell you a few ideas of how you can continue to sell and upsell and create value to your customers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you with 8 different ideas and then follow that up with some customer stories where these ideas have actually been used and have come to fruition to provide more value to the customers. But before we get to that, a very quick refresher on the applications, on the solutions that the Teldio system provides you. We have an integration platform, which is something that can connect to an ever-growing list of things. And to put it very simply, what it does is take 2 things that cannot talk to each other and make them talk to each other to notify people in a timely fashion. Then we also have a location tracking application, mostly for radios, that allows you to track radios outdoors via GPS and indoors via iBeacons. We also have a suite of personal safety applications, such as the Teldio Man Down, Lone Worker, that allows you to monitor the safety of employees at a customer location, workers at a location. And the important thing I want you to take away from this is, while these are different applications, they all work together. As in, if you have a radio connection using one of these applications, more often than not, we can reuse that same radio connection to enable the other applications, thereby you don't need any additional hardware to enable it as well. All right, so now to the 8 ideas. Idea number 1, add location tracking. Now, GPS is really mostly thought of as a standalone solution. We get a lot of requests from customers. They want to know where people are. But what we are asking here is you can think of GPS as an add-on product as well, especially to customers that have safety applications. So it does, and when I say safety applications, I mean the man down and the lone workers, and it doesn't even have to be the Teldio man down and lone worker. If you have customers using Motorola's own emergency button, Motorola's own man down and lone worker, you can add a layer of information to it by adding location tracking, so that when someone gets in trouble, not only will it notify them of that, but it also let them know their last known location, potentially saving lives, because it'll have their last known location, but it'll also continue to update them on a map as this person moves around, if they happen to move around. So this would be something you can definitely take to customers who have safety applications as well. Idea number 2 is to add personal safety. So that's somewhat the opposite of idea number 1. So as I mentioned, a lot of people have GPS applications. Those are standalone applications. People want to know where someone is at any given time. But why does it matter? It could be for auditing traceability, but it could also be for the actual safety of these people as well. So you can go back to your customers and ask, is there a reason? Maybe it doesn't make sense for everyone, but maybe there are some people who work night shifts, who work alone, who work dangerous jobs at certain times, where it would make sense to add this personal safety component. And if they already then have a location tracking solution or even an integration solution from Teldio, we be able to layer on that personal safety and then enhance the notification methods, send those personal safety messages to a variety of other people on their devices as well. So adding personal safety is idea number 2. Idea number 3 is add integrations. So Amanda mentioned a few of the reasons of our current environment today, and a lot of things have changed over the last couple of years. So with all those changes, chances are that the operational methods of some of your existing customers have changed. Maybe they have lost a lot of personnel. Maybe they have created an entire new department. Maybe they've changed the alarm system they had, they've added on new components and such. So as you revisit these customers, have the conversations beyond the radios and ask them about, hey, what's changed in the last 2 years? What challenges are you seeing? And in terms of integrations, you can see maybe they have bought an integration platform from you via Teldio for fire alarm to send to radio text messages. You can ask them, hey, would you like to send it to more recipients? Did you buy a new alarm system that you would also like to send to your radios? And you can also think of the location tracking and the personal safety, which were in idea number 1 and 2, as integrations as well, because they all work together. Just because they just bought it for one use case doesn't mean that they can enhance that experience by adding a lot more integrations. And as I mentioned, our integration list is ever growing. It's growing weekly, monthly. So there's always more things that we can do with our platform. Idea number 4 is secure people. Now, this might seem like a repeat of idea number 2, where I talked about personal safety, but that personal safety aspect was for just people that carried radios. Not everyone can carry radios or want to carry radios. Think of a receptionist at an administration or office or school who sits at a desk. Think of people who are working in a very involved assembly line where they cannot carry another device but need to notify people when there's an emergency, a personal emergency and such. So in those cases, Teldio can provide the panic button for you. So we have these panic buttons that look like this, that have a simple button, and this could be mounted underneath the desk or on a wall. And with a simple, and it's wireless and battery operated. So very easy installation. There's no supply shortage on these. So you can provide these to people as a way to raise alarms, depending on their use case. Maybe a mounted panic button doesn't work for them, and they actually happen to have some sort of a personal panic device that they carry around. In that case, because of the integration platform and it's always growing, we are more than likely able to integrate to that panic device as well and send out alerts to more than what the panic device is able to notify. So just way of adding more value to people, to securing people as well. In terms, idea number 5, securing places. So I believe most of you, if not all of you here, are Motorola radio dealers, so you're probably very familiar with the Avigilon offering. And if you ever deployed an Avigilon system, video system, it's a pretty big infrastructure, and people do that because they value the place that they're tracking by video and everything in it. So idea number 5 of how you can sell more is you can actually enhance that video monitoring. They've made a huge investment into tracking everything via video. But what if this intelligent alarm system, which can create alarms, when it creates an alarm, what if it can actually notify a lot more than its native systems, all at the same time, via different methods? What if there's an alarm that's not actually trackable by a video? When that gets created, the Teldio system can actually send that to the Avigilon system, to the video system, and create an alarm in it, so that when you go back, and it'll be very easy to see the alarms there, and you can actually notify more people as it happens as well. So not just for the original use case that they bought, you can get them thinking more and actually enhance that video solution itself. Idea number 6, monitor things. So I talked about the fire alarm panels in previous examples, building management systems. So panic buttons, these are all things that can generate alarms themselves. But there are also other important things that a customer might have that almost blend into the background because it's always there. It's things like fire extinguishers, wheelchairs at a hospital, automatic external defibrillators like the one I have behind me here. These are things that are standalone items. They don't have the ability to actually generate an alarm because they just work alone by themselves. So, but these are expensive, important assets. So there are some customers who actually want to monitor these as well. So how would you monitor it if they don't have a way to talk to an alarm system? Teldio can help. Teldio has a full range of sensors, whether it be wireless, wired, powered, battery powered, depending on the customer's use case. We can provide those. So I have an example of one type of sensor here. This is a sensor that has 2 contact closures that can integrate to a system. It could be without the contact closure, it could be a temperature sensor, humidity sensor. So you could go to the customer saying, sure, you have this important asset that you want to track, but you don't have a way to get an alarm out of it. We can help you. We'd be able to take that, tie it into that integration platform that we have, and from there, notify a large number of people as well. Idea number 7 is to expand notifications. So I believe I mentioned a few examples of notifications: radio text, SMS text, email text, all text-based. And that's just the go-to, that's just the default. That's what we hear a lot from customers as well. But it doesn't always have to be a text solution. It could be a visual component. You could turn on a light when there's a strobe light, that when there's an alarm. You could play a message over PA system to alert everyone when there is an event. You could call a list of phone numbers with 911 being the last number in escalation tree when an event happened. It just doesn't have to be a text message. And you could also take an alarm and take an event, panic button press, radio emergency, whatever it takes, and feed it into a different alarm system to make that alarm system do all of its pre-programmed triggers as well. So it doesn't have to be just text, so we can expand whatever the customer is asking beyond what they have even thought of. And idea number 8 is solution engineer with Teldio. So if you're a sales rep, you're working in pre-sales, most times, I think you would agree with me that most times when a customer comes to you, they have a specific problem and they also have a specific solution. So sometimes, a lot of the times we have customers who want to get, who used to get messages on their pages. Now they're upgrading radios. They want to get messages on their radios, but that's just what they want to do. But what we're asking you to hear is get Teldio involved, because we can help you think beyond just what the customer is asking for, because we've heard this request before. We've done these deployments before. We'd be able to expand the use case, recommend better ways, more efficient ways, and more complete solutions to customers that they may not even have thought of. Go back to the emergency case. A lot of people buy emergency applications from us. I want a man-down application. I want a loan book application. But you can talk to them about, wouldn't it be nice to know where someone is when someone gets into trouble? Wouldn't it be better if they carried a different type of panic device? So these are the things that we can help you. And this is going to help you grow the deal size. And I'm yet to come across a customer who didn't appreciate you giving them a complete solution. So you're going to have customers that are happy with Teldio, and by extension you, because it was you who brought them the deal. So we are more than happy to work with you to provide a complete solution. So those are the 8 ideas that we have. Since this is being recorded, I'm not going to read all of these out, but I want to leave this slide up for a few seconds. This is all the things we can do. And if you can pick it out, motor turbo is just one of the things. And this is not even the complete list of things that we can do. So as it's ever growing, just different ways to get people thinking, different technologies that we can talk to. We are going back to the solution engineering, always make sure to come to us. We'll be happy to present all these ideas and create the best solution for your customer. So giving you 8 ideas. Ideas are great, but do they actually work in real life? So I want to say, yes, they do, and provide you with a few examples of actual customer stories of ours where we've been able to take a add-on, sell more continuously, and provide value to a customer beyond the original scope. The first one, first use case, first story I want to tell you is very radio-centric. So this was a prison in the Midwest. And they had a need. They wanted to track their security guards while they were indoors and also while they were outside on the premises. Makes sense. Need to know where security guards are. While we were deploying the system, we got to know, because we work with code plugs and such, that they actually also have a Motorola emergency enabled on their user radios. So they were just going to use the Motorola emergency on its own, and it was going to send the Motorola emergency message to the radios. But there was no integration with the location tracking at all. So we talked to them like, well, we can take that information in, we can show you where someone is, include the location information and send it in a message. They're like, oh, that would be really great. So what we did was we ended up taking that emergency message and we ended up sending it to the security group itself. Then they asked, well, we have some people who don't carry radio, some important offsite people who would like to get this message, and also a command center where it would be nice if they were notified in a different way. And we asked if email would work, and they said it would work. So we took that same emergency message and sent it to the radios as well. Then as we were talking more, we got to know that they had a video system in there as well, tracking everything. Asked if we could send, and we actually proposed if you could send, we could send an alarm to the video system when it happens as well. And they said that would be great. So it'd just be another integration that we added. So something that was just a standalone location tracking system and a standalone emergency system, we were able to bridge that together and add so much more value to the customer with all these notifications that all happened simultaneously. Then they had one more ask. So they wanted to make sure that these radios would not leave the premises because it's sensitive information. The radio coverage could expand a little bit beyond the footprint of the prison. So they wanted to make sure that they could not leave the premises. So I asked if we could do anything, and we said, and we provided this solution where in the location tracking solution, we have the geofence capability. So we set up a rule through our integration platform's rule engine to say, if a radio leaves this geofence, then disable the radio using the Motorola stun feature. And then if they come back in, then revive the radio. So just by talking and presenting ideas, we were able to give a complete solution to this very radio heavy deployment without adding a single other radio. The next customer story I want to talk about is integration. So this actually most of it happened in the pre-sales stage. This is the manufacturing plant out in the Northeast, and they had a building management system, a BMS, and they wanted to send operational alarms to the operational team. So basic use case, we can do that. So we however, got involved in the pre-sale stage with the solution engineering, and when we presented some of the other options that we had, the long list I showed you in a different way, they said, oh, it looks like we can send to cell phone messages. Can we do that? So we were able to set them up with cell phone messages because not everyone carried radios. We were able to make that an addition. Then at the same time, there were some people who said that there are some alarms that they have a digital signage, an LED scrolling marquee type device. And there'll be some BMS alarms, not all, but some that has changing values of temperature and such that they would like displayed on that LED. Would it be possible to integrate to that? And we were able to, that's something that we were able to enable as well. Then, so that was all pre-sales and it was done. And then as they saw the value of the integration platform, someone asked, well, we have AccuWeather system where we track weather events, snowstorms and such. Would we be able to take that and alert people somehow? So we got to talking to them, ask them what kind of messages they had, what kind of alarm output methods they had. They said they had a PA system. So we said, all right, we can take that AccuWeather system and then make a phone call to your phone system with a pre-recorded message and notify people that were there. And then as an extension, we were also able to take the integrate with their fire panel system. And these customers, they had a mix of display radios and non-display radios. So radio text didn't make sense. Therefore, and we recommended the customer if they could, if audio messages would work, and that worked for them. So with the radio dealer, we were able to enable that again. Didn't add a single radio, work with just the integration platform just to expand by adding modules, adding integrations and such. And the last story I want to tell you is the AED story. So as in automatic external defibrillator. So these are the assets that can output any data. They sit by themselves. And this deployment was actually at an airport in Honolulu. Me being on the onboarding side, sometimes I was I went on site for this. And I've been to a few airports. I like to travel, but this airport, it was quite large. May have been the biggest airport that I've been to, maybe just because I had to walk the airport quite a few times, but was great for my step counter. They had 150 plus AEDs all dispersed among their around the airport, and the only type of alarm they had was a local auditory alarm. So when you open the cabinet, it made a sound, but you just had to be within earshot of that and hope someone would call 911. That's how the system worked for years. So not only was it important to notify some emergency personnel that there was something wrong, but the company that provided the AEDs, they do weekly inspections, but they found that it would be add a lot of value if they knew as something was being used, because then they wouldn't wait until the next day of the week to replace these AEDs, because what if there was another event that happened? So they came to us and asked if there was any way to get an alarm out of the stationary systems, and we suggested wireless sensors. The contact closure ones that I showed you, which are able to track two on-off events. So the customers wanted to know when the door was opened, when the AD was taken out, when it was put back, and when it was closed, we were able to deliver a dashboard solution that for the AED supplier, so that they can have up on their screen to track alarm events as they happen. A mobile application was provided both to the AED supplier and the airport personnel, so they would be notified on these apps as things happen. And also email notifications were sent to people who would prefer to get it that way. So again, standalone item that had no way of getting messages out, to build it out to something so much bigger to notify people in a variety of different ways as well. So there you go. That's a lot of talking, but those were 8 ideas and some real life stories. I hope this has been helpful and given you some pointers about how you can continue to sell in this environment, in this current environment, without needing a lot more hardware, and then continue to go back to your customers and add solutions and value as well. I encourage you to send any questions that you have in the chat. We'll answer them at the end. And with that, I'm going to hand this back off to Amanda.
Thank you so much, Dee. Lots of good stuff there. I'm sure that was a ton for you guys to take in. So now that we've given you these ideas on different ways we can work together, how do we actually work together? So there's a few different ways we can go about this. The number one thing we suggest is talking to your sales rep. They will be your number one person at Teldio and will connect you with all the right people to get things going for your customer. We can also offer one-on-one webinars. So let's schedule a private session together. Your customer can be there, or we can work on ideas for your customer in the webinar and have something similar to this, but with just you and your sales team. Also, we can do things like co-authored sales campaigns. So let's co-author a web page or a white paper or whatever you think would be useful, a slide deck, whatever works for your selling tactics. And lastly, we can actually do custom discovery conversations with your clients. So let's get on the phone together with your clients. Let's talk to them together. We can answer questions with you on the fly with them and actually work out some solutions and maybe come up with some ideas we wouldn't have originally had. So that will conclude today's webinar. We thank every single one of you for attending and signing up and taking the time to join us. We'll now open the floor for a Q&A. So any questions you have, simply pop in the chat. But if you rather save a question for your sales rep or our team later, we're more than happy to answer them at a later date as well. All right, so our first question is, how do you know who your sales rep at Teldio is? So this is a great question. If you don't happen to know who your direct sales rep is at Teldio, the best thing to do is to just email our sales@teldio.com email address. And based on your location, we'll make sure you get set up with the right sales rep. And then they will walk you through everything that you need to know and get you in touch with the right people on our team, depending on the situation. We'll just wait a little bit for a few more questions if there's any. If not, though, we thank you all for taking the time to join us today. We hope that you learned a lot. As we mentioned, we'll be sending a recording out later this afternoon for you to go back to. And please always reach out to our team with any questions that you may have or any way that we can help you guys. All right, well, Dee, it looks like you covered everything. So
it was a lot of information. Yeah. So yeah, like Amanda said, we definitely encourage you reaching back out to us. We are here to help make the experience that much better for you and for your end customers. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining, and stay tuned for our upcoming webinars. We're going to be hosting these a lot more frequently. So we hope to see you all again.